Tying up another wet fly from Ray Bergman's book Trout. This is a fly called the light blow. It kind of looks to me like kind of a March Brown type pattern, or something more to resemble a nymph, I suppose. The interesting thing about this, the wing and the tail are just like mottled turkey, and the throat is just some scarlet like a lot of other wet flies, but the body on this is a stripped peacock herl. You see these often in other nymphs, but a lot of dry flies as well, the stripped peacock herls. But this is the first one that I've run across in a wet fly, and I'll talk more about the process for stripping those peacock herls down for the body on this when I actually tie the fly. That is the light blow. I'll get started tying. I'm going to start the light blow with my hook in the vise. This is a Mustad 3399 in a size 6. I'll go ahead and debarb the hook. The body on the light blow is a stripped peacock quill, or peacock herl, I should say. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. But I could use a black thread on it if I want. I don't think it would really darken it up that much. It might in the water, and I'm so used to using a white thread to start out with, that's what I'm going to put on here. So I'll put down a base layer of white. There's a tail, and it is simply the same as the wing, which is a light mottled turkey. There's no rib or tag or anything on this. So I'm using just some light mottled turkey here. You'll notice these feathers have been pretty well used in various videos and things. They're kind of off a little bit. These probably wouldn't be, unless I was tying, say, size 10s or 12s, these probably wouldn't be good enough to match up for a wing or anything anymore. But save these, because if you're putting in a tail, just like any other wet fly that uses a quill, or I should say a barbed tail like that, you can just cut just a little bit out, 4 or 5 barbs will do it. And you can match these up and just use that for a tail. So I've got those cut out. I'll pull out the left and I'll match that up with the right and take that out. And even though they're different lengths, they're the same width, and it's just perfect for a little matched tail. About a hook shank long, maybe a little bit longer in there. I'll advance my thread down the hook shank, keeping that tail right up on top of the hook shank. Doesn't look quite as good as a duck or a goose, but it serves the purpose. I'll trim away the excess here. It's going to take it to the end of the body. Now the body on the light blow is, as I mentioned, a stripped peacock herl. You could use one of the herls from the eye here, especially if you're tying this on a smaller hook, size 8 or 10. But these end up being a little bit short sometimes for the larger size 6 hook. So I just part of a peacock, whole peacock feather. You can get these herls that are much longer. And that's what I'm using for this. And what you're going to do, if you've never done this before, is you're going to hold this down on the table and then take just a pencil eraser, regular number 2 pencil eraser. And you're just going to rub the eraser across I shouldn't say across, but along this in the opposite direction where those little barbules grow, and you're going to strip off all of those herls. So all you end up with is essentially the quill or the rachis that they of the actual herl. I'm not certain if that's a rachis because this is actually a barb that comes off of the larger part of the feather. Anyway, if you're into doing a lot of these, because a lot of nymphs and different things also, and some dry flies use stripped peacock herl, there's a number of videos out there how to, different ways to do this with an eraser and so on and so forth, but you can also use bleach. So you can put a whole eye like this, or a whole, strip off a whole bunch of these herls and bleach them, and the bleach will eat away at this, and then you have a nice clean stripped herl. I'm going to tie this in, and notice I'm not all the way out at the tip of that herl because that is very, very delicate, and odds are I'm going to snap that when I go to wrap this in. And if I'm too heavy-handed, even where I have it now, I may end up snapping it. As the center of the herl gets wider and you get up towards the front, it gives it a nice segmented look to it, and it wraps in a lot easier and covers more of the hook shank. But to begin with, because it's so small and tiny, it takes a little bit. You just have to be careful with it. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of Dave's Flex Cement along the hook shank here, and this is just to reinforce it. You could, if you wanted to, instead put this onto the wrapped in quill after you've wrapped it in, or you can do both if you want. But this is just going to provide a little bit of insurance in terms of if that gets busted while fishing or something, it won't all unravel. Taking my Herl and my Hackle pliers, I'm going to start wrapping this around. You just want to take your sweet time with it. Like I said, it is kind of delicate. Just going to put each wrap in front of the other one. It'll take a little while to get started, but you should probably start seeing a little bit of that segmentation, that look to it, because one side of that quill is darker than the other. So when you're wrapping this in and it goes in flat, it looks as though there's a rib. Getting into a little bit wider portion of it so it will apply a little bit quicker and it's a little bit stronger. It always seems to me at this point that I'm going to run out of quill, but when I do wrap this in, it seems to always end up just the right length. So this will come right on up to the end of the body and right into the head space. Just take your time with it. Like I said, it can, working around the bobbin and everything else, it can be kind of fiddly, but just don't rush it. And if you want to, you could put a little bit of Flex Cement, or if you prefer some, UV material, or even just some Sally Hansen's, if that's what you use for your head cement, then go ahead and put some of that on there. I'm going to switch over to my black thread. I'm using a Danville 70 denier in black. By the way, I don't know if I had mentioned it, but that is a Danville 70 denier in white that I used. The only other components to the light blow is a Scarlet throat and then a light mottled turkey wing. So I'll get my thread at the back position for the back of the head. For the throat, I'm just using some red schlappen. I'm still trying to find out if when they talk about in the recipe a scarlet, if it is a different red, if it's a brighter red, or if that's all they're talking about is red. I have not seen any schlappen or anything like that labeled as a scarlet. So it might be something I'd end up having to dye myself, but I tie that in so that the tips of those barbs go back about to the barb of the hook. Anchoring that in with a few turns, I'll trim away the excess. Smooth this off here for the tying into the wing. Get my thread back to the end of the head space for securing the wing in here. And the wing is just the same light mottled turkey. So I've got a couple of nice feathers here. If it's usable for the size hooks that you have, the nice light colors on this side work. But even though this is a little bit darker than this will still work in terms of being a light mottled turkey. It's not a darker brown. So I've got my slips cut out here and prepped. I want to make certain the tips are even. As I've mentioned in some other videos, I find it's either the quality of the turkey or just the material itself kind of fiddly sometimes. Tie that in so the tips of the wing go back down about halfway down the tail. I'm going to secure that in with a little pinch and loop. A few wraps to anchor that in. And we'll see how our wing looks. It got a little cocked off to the side there. So I will redo that. Sometimes I find these work better if you tie them in and then unwrap and retie them in. I don't know if it somehow, compresses it, shapes it, does something to it so that the second time you tie it in, it goes in a little bit easier. We'll try that one more time. Sometimes I just have a hard time going in, and it could be, the slips that I have here. I'm going to get two more because that one slip has just gotten crunched on me. So I'm going to make certain here that my barbs are all smoothed out. We don't have any that came out and crossed over another one or something like that. I'm going to trim the left side, and then I'll come in here and trim the right side a little bit wider. I like to take a little bit more than maybe I need because I can always take it out. I'm going to peel that off and then peel this one off. Matching up the tips. I've got those tips matched up there. I'm wider than I want, which is fine. I'm going to take a few barbs out from the bottom. Again, that's the name of the game when you're tying these flies. Sometimes the material, it cooperates, your hands are doing the right thing, it's the right humidity out. I don't know, but it works. And then sometimes it just is more fiddly. You have to massage more, and you have to work with it a little bit more. A couple wraps in there to secure that. And I think that wing is a little bit better. Yeah, I got, for some reason, I think that one will work. The thing is, this will, in the water, all of this is going to split up, and it's just going to be, some dark mottled material or light mottled material that's flowing over the back of it. But we'll go with that wing. I'm going to trim away the excess. Supporting that wing, I'm going to tie in or wrap my thread down behind the eye of the hook to make the head here. Just want to smooth all that off, make certain all that material is covered up. And then, there's a little bit right there I got to cover up. And then I will flatten my thread and put in a whip finish. After the whip finish, I will put some head cement on there to soak into those threads, secure it real well. I'll come back in a little while and I'll put 2 coats of a clear lacquer on there. That will help protect the thread wraps even more. And I'll top that off with a coat of black lacquer, which will smooth everything off and give it that nice polished head that is most of these wet flies have. So there you have it. That is the light blow. Kind of like a nice little March Brown imitation, I think. An interesting fly with that stripped peacock herl for the body. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.